Let's say you want to explode or extract a drum rack in Ableton. I've got one set up here with just 16 basic pads, and then I set up a beat, pretty simple beat. So there's a couple ways to do it. Normally you could just select one of your channels, right click, and extract chains. But I came up with a cool way that you can kind of have submixes going without having to extract the chains. That way you can keep all of your MIDI within that one drum rack. Like if you're looking in the arrangement view, you still have all your MIDI here. Because another way to do it is you could make a MIDI track and you can just drag the pad out. But now your MIDI is starting to get split up. So if I want to be able to recycle this region later, and as an easy way to make stems, what I did is it's kind of a complicated but not impossible way of setting up these sends and returns. So if we open up, I've got all the drum racks spread out. I'm going to turn on the sends, and I'll turn on the returns as well. So I'm basically making subgroup buses inside of the drum rack sends and returns. We can show them here as well. And so the A send is just for kicks, and then snares, hats, toms, cymbals, and percussion. So this way, if you have multiple kick drums or different snare drums, you could have them all being bussed down to one. And this can work really well for when you are archiving a session or you want to prepare mix stems, or if you just want simpler subgroups for mixing. So you can see that I got my kicks. I've got two different kicks, and those are sent both to A, and then two snares to B, the snare here, and then hats and everything to their appropriate buses. And then all you have to do there is I have a group that's called rack outs, and then these are just normal audio tracks, and then you put them on input monitoring, and then for their input you would select this track, and then in the second menu you can select kicks the return. So the output of the return can now go there. And then I have that set up for each specific one. Let me make sure I had this one done right. Yeah, here. Drum rack. Yeah, kicks. So now when those play, you can see they're all coming out onto their own separate tracks. And then you can record these out. I'm not sure if it works if it freezes what it does. I'm pretty sure that doesn't work. Yeah, you'd have to just record the audio in. But I typically just treat them like boxes and just mix on there. And then one thing I do know is that I will just monitor and listen through the normal drum rack, and I'll typically put my effects on the chains in here and just kind of let these just be bus prints. If you are monitoring and playing through this, when you have more plugins that add latency to the session, you will have it. The latency computation does not work correctly in this method. So if you're playing live on this track, you'll hear the delay when it comes out of the outputs. So I usually will leave those muted until I'm ready to make stems and just listen and just work on the one drum rack. And this way I never have to explode my drum racks. I never have to break up these here. I can recycle these MIDI clips for other songs. They're all ready to go. I will note though that when you're switching out samples, the best way to do it is to, let's just like grab another kick. Just drag the sample straight into this area. If you drag the sample onto the rack, let's say we replace this kick here, or if you delete it and add a sample, you lose the send and you'd have to redo it. So if you just want to grab a sample and place it on that rack here instead to swap them out, or do like the swap sample here, that will keep your routing. And it also doesn't work if you're importing into other sessions and stuff. It can't remember it unless you think you do the whole thing. But it's kind of a cool way if you save it inside of your default template and you kind of have one main drum rack, you always have the stems ready to go and you don't have to do anything. And then when you export all tracks as audio and you're making stems later, it's all done and you don't have to touch anything. I will include this live set and link in the description so you can check out what I did and tweak it as you need and mess with it.